A house is not just shelter. It is a statement about how you want to exist in the world. The walls you choose reveal what you are protecting. The windows you open show what you are willing to see. The foundation you build upon tells the truth about what you believe will keep you safe. And yet, most people never choose their house. They inherit it from their parents, from their culture, from the unexamined beliefs that were handed to them before they were old enough to question. But today, you get to choose. Not the house you think you should want. Not the house that looks impressive to others. But the house that calls to the part of you that knows, without words, where you truly belong. Before you are 4 houses. Each one a different way of dwelling in the world. Each one a different relationship between self and space, between inner and outer, between safety and exposure. The glass house, the stone cottage, the tree house, the floating house. Do not choose with logic. Do not choose what seems practical. Choose what makes you feel something, what pulls at something deep inside you that has been waiting to be recognized. Alan Watts understood that the way we construct our external world is always a reflection of our internal architecture. The house you choose today will reveal the structure of your consciousness itself. Breathe, feel, and let the house choose you. If your choice is made, comment below your choice. Now, let us walk through the door and discover what has been living inside you all along. If you chose the glass house, you are not afraid to be seen. Where others build walls to hide behind, you choose transparency. You understand that the greatest freedom comes not from concealing yourself, but from having nothing left to conceal. You live with a radical honesty that makes most people uncomfortable because they are still invested in their masks. You value authenticity above all else. You do not perform. You do not pretend. What you think, you speak. What you feel, you show. You have grown tired of the game. Everyone else is playing the careful curation of image, the strategic withholding of truth, the exhausting performance of being someone you are not. Your life is visible, not because you are exhibiting yourself, but because you have realized that hiding is more exhausting than revealing. You let people see your mess, your contradictions, your humanity. And paradoxically, this makes you more trustworthy, not less. You are drawn to minimalism, to clarity, to spaces where nothing is hidden and everything can breathe. You do not accumulate unnecessary things, unnecessary stories, unnecessary layers. You live light. People either love you or find you threatening, because when you are transparent, you become a mirror. And most people do not like what they see reflected back. But there is a vulnerability in walls made of glass. You have become so committed to transparency that you have forgotten you are allowed to have boundaries. You have confused authenticity with total accessibility. You have opened yourself so completely that you have lost the ability to protect yourself from those who would misuse your openness. Not everyone deserves to see everything. Not every space needs to be transparent. Some things are sacred precisely because they are private. Some truths are meant to be held quietly, not broadcast to everyone who asks. You fear that if you close even one curtain, you will slip back into the performance you worked so hard to escape. You fear that privacy is just another word for hiding. So you leave yourself exposed, even when exposure becomes exhausting, even when it leaves you drained. And here is the danger. You can become so invested in being seen that you forget to simply be. Your transparency becomes its own kind of performance. Your authenticity becomes a new identity to defend. You are so busy being visible that you forget to check if you still have anything inside worth seeing. Alan Watts once said, "You cannot understand life and its mysteries as long as you try to grasp it." Glass soul. You are learning that true transparency is not about constant exposure. It is about having nothing to hide. And those are not the same thing. You can be authentic without being available. You can be honest without being raw. You can live in a glass house and still have rooms that are yours alone. Not because you are hiding, but because some spaces need to be held sacred. The glass you are drawn to is not meant to make you vulnerable to everything. It is meant to help you see clearly. Glass works both ways. It lets light in, but it also keeps the elements out. Transparency does not mean you have no protection. It means your protection is clear, not opaque. You are learning to discern between authentic expression and compulsive revealing, between openness and defenselessness, between living transparently and living without structure. The wisest use of glass is not to expose everything, but to be clear about what you are choosing to protect. To live in such integrity that even your boundaries are honest. To be seen without needing to be invaded. If you chose the glass house, you are the soul who understands that hiding is more exhausting than truth. You do not need to justify your transparency, but you also do not need to apologize for your privacy. You are allowed to be both visible and protected, both open and boundaried. Your true self is not the glass. It is the light that moves through it, the consciousness that can be seen without being diminished, the presence that remains whole no matter who is looking. And when you learn that transparency is a choice, not a compulsion, you will become the kind of openness that invites others into their own authenticity, rather than demanding they witness yours. If you chose the stone cottage, you understand the power of permanence. You do not chase novelty. You do not worship change for its own sake. You know that there is something sacred in roots, in tradition, in the kind of life that is built slowly, carefully, with hands that know how to work with resistance. You value depth over breadth, quality over quantity. You would rather have one chair passed down through generations than a house full of furniture that will be replaced next season. You understand that meaning accumulates through repetition, through ritual, through the patient layering of days into years, into a life well lived. You are the keeper of memories, the one who knows the stories, the one who can trace the line from past to present and show how everything connects. You do not discard what came before. You honor it. You build upon it. You understand that you are not the beginning, but part of a lineage that extends far beyond your lifetime. People feel safe around you because you are solid, dependable. You do not shift with every wind. You do not change your values to match the trends. You stand where you have always stood, and there is a profound comfort in that kind of constancy. You are drawn to craftsmanship, two things made to last, to beauty that deepens with age rather than fading with time. But stone can become a tomb. You have built such thick walls that nothing new can enter. You have rooted so deeply that you cannot move even when the ground beneath you has become barren. You cling to tradition, not because it serves you, but because change terrifies you. You fear that if you let go of what has always been, you will lose yourself. So you hold on, you preserve, you maintain. Even when the old ways no longer nourish you, even when the stone walls you built for protection have become the bars of your own cage, you have mistaken stability for stagnation. You have convinced yourself that loyalty means never leaving, never questioning, never evolving. But Alan Watts would ask you, are you honoring the past, or are you being held hostage by it? The cottage you have built is beautiful, but have you forgotten that you are allowed to leave? That roots can grow in new soil. That stone can be carried with you, not just lived inside. Watts once said, the only way to make sense out of change is to plunge into it, move with it, and join the dance. Stone, soul, you are learning that permanence is not found in refusing to change. It is found in remaining grounded while everything changes. The cottage is not meant to keep you frozen in time. It is meant to give you a place to return to, a center, a foundation. But foundation is not the same as prison. Foundation is what allows you to venture far, knowing you can always come home. You can honor your roots without being buried by them. You can respect tradition without being enslaved to it. You can value permanence without demanding that everything remain exactly as it was. The stone you are drawn to is not meant to trap you. It is meant to teach you that some things endure precisely because they are strong enough to support transformation. The cottage stands through seasons. It witnesses spring and winter. It does not resist the cycle. It provides shelter through the cycle. So yes, build with stone. Create foundations that last. Honor what came before. But do not forget that the most sacred traditions were once radical innovations. That every stone cottage was built by someone brave enough to place the first stone. If you chose the stone cottage, You are the soul who understands that not everything should be disposable. You do not need to abandon your roots to grow. You only need to remember that roots are meant to nourish, not to anchor you in place forever. Your true self is not the stone. It is the life that has always moved through stone, the force that turns mountain into soil, that cracks the hardest surface with the gentle persistence of a seed. And when you learn that you can carry your foundation with you, you will discover that home was never the cottage. It was always the consciousness that knew how to return to itself. If you chose the treehouse, you understand that perspective changes everything. You do not want to live on the ground with everyone else. Not because you think you are better, but because you see more clearly from above. You need elevation, distance, the ability to observe the patterns that are invisible at ground level. You are the thinker, the visionary, the one who climbs high enough to see over the walls that contain others. You understand that most people's problems come from being too close, too immersed, too identified with the drama playing out around them. You value freedom. Not just physical freedom, but psychological freedom. The freedom to detach from the noise, to observe without being pulled into the current, to participate in life without being consumed by it. You are drawn to creativity, to philosophy, to the kind of work that requires you to step outside the conventional framework. You cannot create from inside the box. You need space, air, room to breathe and think and see. People come to you for perspective. You are the one who can see the whole forest when everyone else is staring at individual trees. You offer clarity not because you have answers, but because you have distance. But there is a danger in living too high above the ground. You have elevated yourself so far that you have lost touch with what it means to be human. You can see the patterns, but you cannot feel the pain. You can understand the logic, but you have forgotten the mess. You have mistaken observation for wisdom, distance for enlightenment, detachment for peace. But Alan Watts would remind you that true wisdom is not found in rising above life. It is found in being fully, completely alive. You fear being pulled into the chaos. You fear losing your clarity if you descend. So you stay in your treehouse, safe and separate, watching life happen below you, while rarely participating in it yourself. And slowly, without realizing it, you have become a ghost. Present but not engaged. Seeing but not touching. Understanding but not feeling. You have protected your perspective, but in doing so, you have lost your humanity. Watts once said, "No valid plans for the future can be made by those who have no capacity for living now." Treehouse soul, you are learning that perspective without participation is incomplete. That elevation is only valuable if you are willing to climb back down and bring what you have seen into the world. The treehouse is not meant to be your permanent residence. It is meant to be your lookout point, the place you go to gain clarity, to see the bigger picture, to remember that you are not your circumstances. But then you must descend. You must re-enter. You must bring the sky down to earth. You cannot live your entire life as an observer. At some point, you must become a participant. You must risk losing perspective in order to gain experience. You must risk getting your hands dirty in order to create something real. The height you are drawn to is not meant to separate you from life. It is meant to help you see life more clearly, so you can engage with it more consciously. The view from the treehouse should inform your actions on the ground, not replace them. If you chose the treehouse, you are the soul who understands that distance can be medicine. You do not need to live at ground level to be real. But you also do not need to live in the clouds to be wise. You are allowed to move between heights, to climb for clarity and descend for connection. Your true self is not the elevation. It is the awareness that can be both above and within. The consciousness that can see the pattern and feel the pain. The presence that knows when to observe and when to engage. And when you learn to bring the sky with you wherever you go, you will discover that perspective is not a place you visit. It is a capacity you carry. If you chose the floating house, you are not attached to solid ground. You understand that life is not meant to be fixed, not meant to be permanent, not meant to be controlled. You have learned to live on the current, to trust the movement, to let go of the need for certainty that keeps most people landlocked. You are adaptable, fluid. You do not resist change, you expect it. You do not fear the unknown, you welcome it. You have realized that the only constant in life is transformation, and instead of fighting this truth, you have built your entire existence around it. You are the traveler, the seeker, the one who is always willing to let go of what was in order, to make space for what is becoming. You do not accumulate, you do not build empires. You move lightly through the world, carrying only what you need, releasing everything that weighs you down. People are both fascinated and unsettled by you. You remind them that nothing is as permanent as they pretend, that the ground they are standing on is more fragile than they admit, that holding on too tightly is what causes the most pain. You are drawn to freedom, to possibility, to the kind of life that cannot be predicted or contained. You trust the tide even when you cannot see where it is taking you. But there is a danger in never landing. You have become so comfortable with movement that you have forgotten how to be still. You have become so skilled at letting go that you have forgotten how to hold. You have convinced yourself that commitment is a trap, that roots are chains, that to stay anywhere too long is to betray your nature. You fear permanence. You fear that if you build something solid, you will lose your freedom. So you drift, you float, you keep moving. Not because life is calling you forward, but because you are running from the vulnerability of arriving. You have mistaken instability for freedom. You have mistaken rootlessness for enlightenment. You have convinced yourself that you are surrendering to the flow, when really you are just afraid to claim a shore. And in doing so, you have become exhausted. Because drifting is not the same as flowing. Drifting is passive. Flowing is active. Drifting is being moved by life. Flowing is moving with life. And there is a profound difference. Alan Watts once said, "The meaning of life is just to be alive." It is so plain and so obvious and so simple. Floating soul, you are learning that freedom is not found in avoiding commitment. It is found in committing fully to the present moment, knowing that the present moment is always changing. The floating house is not meant to keep you drifting forever. It is meant to teach you that you can be grounded without being stuck, that you can have roots that move with you, that you can build a life that is both solid and flexible, both committed and free. You do not need to choose between stability and movement. Life is both. The ocean has depths, the river has banks. Even the floating house has an anchor, even if that anchor is not fixed to one location. You are learning that true flow is not about refusing to land. It is about landing lightly, about staying as long as you are called to stay and leaving as soon as you are called to leave. About trusting that wherever you are is exactly where you need to be, for exactly as long as you need to be there. This is not settling, this is presence. And presence, Watts would tell you, is the only foundation you ever needed. If you chose the floating house, you are the soul who understands that nothing is permanent. You do not need to anchor yourself to solid ground to feel safe. But you also do not need to drift forever to stay free. You are allowed to land, to rest, to build something that lasts exactly as long as it needs to last, and not a moment longer. Your true self is not the movement. It is the awareness that remains constant through all movement, the stillness at the center of the current, the consciousness that is always here, even as everything changes. And when you learn that you can be both rooted and free, you will discover that home was never a place. It was always the space within you that remains untouched by where you go or how long you stay. For houses, for architectures of consciousness, for ways of dwelling in the world. Carl Jung understood that the house is one of the most powerful symbols in the human psyche. It represents the self, the structure we build to contain our being, the walls we erect between inner and outer, the foundation upon which we rest our existence. But Alan Watts would remind you that you are not the house. You are the one who is aware of the house. You are the consciousness that can live in glass or stone, in trees or on water, without ever being limited to any of them. The glass house did not reveal your identity. It revealed your current relationship with visibility. The stone cottage did not define you. It reflected your need for permanence. The treehouse did not capture your essence. It showed your desire for perspective. The floating house did not contain you. It mirrored your relationship with change. And all of these are temporary dwellings. Structures you inhabit for a season, for a lifetime, for as long as they serve you. But you are not the structure. You are the awareness that moves through every structure without ever being confined to any of them. You can live in glass and learn transparency. You can move to stone and learn endurance. You can climb into the trees and learn perspective. You can float on water and learn surrender. And through all of this, you remain unchanged. The consciousness that witnesses every dwelling without ever being the dwelling itself. This is what Watts meant when he said, "You are not in the universe, you are the universe." You are not living in a house. You are the space in which all houses appear. So where does this leave you? Perhaps you saw yourself clearly in the house you chose. Perhaps you felt exposed by how accurately it reflected you. Perhaps you realized that the way you have been living is not the way you want to continue living. All of this is valuable. All of this is part of the awakening. But do not make the house you chose into a new prison. Do not say, "I am a glass house person," and then defend that identity for the rest of your life. Do not use this insight as a way to justify staying exactly as you are. Because the whole point of seeing yourself clearly is not to cement your current state. It is to recognize that your current state is just that current, temporary, one expression of an infinite being that is constantly evolving. You are not the glass. You are not the stone. You are not the tree. You are not the water. You are the awareness that can build in all materials, the consciousness that can dwell in all structures, the presence that can learn from every architecture without being limited to any of them. And here is the most liberating truth of all. You are allowed to renovate, to rebuild, to move, to tear down what no longer serves and construct something entirely new. You are not bound by the house you have been living in. You are only bound by the belief that you must stay there. The house revealed your pattern. Now you get to choose. Do you want to keep living this pattern? Or are you ready to design something new? Alan Watts once said, "You are under no obligation to be the same person you were 5 minutes ago. Today, you looked at 4 houses and chose one. But the choosing was not the point. The point was to realize that you are not the house. You are the one who can choose. The consciousness that is free to design its dwelling however it wishes. The house revealed your current architecture, but it did not define your potential. Because you are not a fixed structure. You are a living process, an unfolding, a constant renovation of consciousness itself. So carry this knowing lightly. Hold your insights gently. And remember, houses can be rebuilt. Walls can come down. Foundations can be relocated. And through all of this transformation, you, the awareness, the consciousness, the presence remain exactly as you have always been. Whole, free, unlimited. If something in this reflection resonated with you, if you saw yourself in the house you chose, we invite you to share it in the comments below. Not to defend your choice, not to explain yourself, but simply to acknowledge, I saw myself, I recognized my pattern, and now I am aware. Because awareness is the first step, the foundation of all transformation. And by bringing your awareness into the light, you make it easier for others to do the same. And subscribe to this channel so we can grow together. There are more reflections like this waiting for you. More mirrors, more invitations to see yourself clearly so you can choose yourself consciously. Stay not because you need to find yourself, but because you are ready to stop hiding from yourself. And until we meet again, remember this: you are not the house. You are the space in which all houses appear, the awareness that makes all architecture possible. The consciousness that was here before the first foundation was laid, and will remain long after the last house has returned to dust. See you in the next reflection.